Peace. This is Amun Asheranu from asheranu.com. The question that is asked is how to manifest with numbers. The answer is this. Each number represents a state of consciousness. So every time we observe numbers, we are observing states, fixed states of consciousness, as mathematics is the language of the universe. So before we see anything, spirits, deities, entities, most likely the universe communicates via numbers. So we're going to see numbers before we see anything else. So the more we understand numbers, the more we will understand how to go deeper into the numbers. Now that we understand that the numbers represents states of consciousness, what we are attempting to do is to establish what state of consciousness is emanated from which number, which we find out through personal experience and experimentation. Then we go deeper into the sciences, such as the science of magic squares, where we create a certain sequence of numbers. And based upon that sequence of numbers, it becomes magical. It becomes a magical square when you combine numbers together in a certain sequence, which brings forth a certain state of consciousness or a certain being or spirit or entity that correlates to that particular state of consciousness. So the more we understand the numbers as states of consciousness that can be tapped into, and the more complex the numbers and the sequences, they eventually lead us to spirits, entities, deities, and what we call manifestation, so that we can bring forth form from numbers. So we start with numbers, or the state of consciousness, which then influences our reality, as all reality is emanated from tone or sound. So each magical square emits a sound that we cannot hear, but that affects our reality on a very subtle level. All manifestation is based upon sound, subtle or invisible, or sound that we cannot hear, versus sound that we actually can hear. So once we become the masters of sound that cannot be heard with the human ears, then we begin to understand the power of the numbers, because they express those sounds that cannot be heard. And the more we get in tune with sounds that cannot be heard, and the sequences in which they produce and the forms in which they produce, we begin to go deeper into what we can do with numbers and how they can be utilized to manifest, especially with the powers of magical squares. So get in tune with the magical squares and see what you can bring forth with your numerology. And that will be all. Peace.